Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 205th episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So today we get to talk about a scene that I've referenced and mentioned a handful of times over the last year, which comes from the idiosyncratic and endlessly creative LA-based independent record label Anticon. This game-changing movement that began as a collective was initially formed by one manager, Sean Coplow, along with a number of MCs and producers, including the late legend Alias, who passed away in the latter half of the 2010s, as well as Gel, Pedestrian, and all three members of the act we're discussing today, cLOUDDEAD, which I'll give a little more background on in a minute. But first, I want to delve a little deeper into the label itself, as a couple names from the core group of artists like Alias or Dose One had already begun to develop their off-kilter and kind of abstract style by teaming up with fellow Anticon veteran Soul, who was actually my initial introduction to this label, as well as Slug from Atmosphere, to form the underground supergroup Deep Puddle Dynamics. These guys released their insanely dope debut album in 1999 titled The Taste of Rain, Why Kneel, which ultimately would steamroll into later acts like Subtle, Themselves, Restiform Bodies, 13 and God, Telephone Jim Jesus, DJ Mayonnaise, and most importantly, cLOUDDEAD. This innovative group was comprised of rapper Dose One, who's done everything from freestyle battling Eminem in his heyday and arguably winning, to having a hand in numerous modern video game soundtracks, which is an affinity he shares with another member of the trio, Odd Nosdom, who handles pretty much all of cLOUDDEAD's production. The third member is Yoni Wolf, who you may know as the polarizing artist Y, though in the early 2000s he actually transferred that name from his moniker as a solo artist onto his new formed band at the time, which I believe is still the case to this day for Y. But back when cLOUDDEAD was formed, it was just Yoni Wolf, who along with Dose One would cover the vocal side of things. There's some debate and discussion online when it comes to whether this album was the true pioneer of cloud rap, but while you could very well argue the atmospheric and ethereal sample choices as some of the earliest semblance of this subgenre, to my knowledge it wasn't really referred to as cloud rap or a separate scene within hip-hop until some of the more relatively recent acts like Viper, Lil B the Bass God, ASAP Rocky, Young Lean, and of course the legendary Clams Casino really put it on the map in a mainstream way. I've discussed some pretty experimental and ambitious projects on this channel in the past, like LP's Fantastic Damage, Company Flow's Fun Crusher Plus, Cannibal Ox's The Cold Vein, Black Up by Shabazz Palaces, Ex-Military, and The Money Store by Death Grips, just to name a few. But while this channel isn't a competition of who's the least accessible, this is without a doubt the most avant-garde release I've covered up until this point, and cLOUDDEAD is one of the more experimental rap acts in general that I'll probably ever cover. Experimental music in general is an interesting thing that, just like any other aspect of art, is pretty subjective, but there's definitely an amount of people out there who like to maintain that they're open-minded and appreciate all forms of music, except when you put on something like cLOUDDEAD's full-length, self-titled debut here, then they bail after the first track. And please take that with a grain of salt, because I'm not saying you have to enjoy this or you're dumb or something. It's an acquired taste that may get labels like pretentious or esoteric lobbed at it, but in my opinion, it's the epitome of creativity for modern music. The way that both Dose One and Y execute their verses is so idiosyncratic that it's definitely the single most challenging aspect for a new listener, outside of maybe the abstract lyrics. But flow and delivery wise, the closest comparison I can come up with for how both MCs will kind of tackle a verse is a mix between Bone Thugs and Harmony and MC Paul Barman. This is the type of writing where it's so obscure and open to interpretation that I would rather just share a few of my favorite passages and leave what they mean up to your own discretion, especially since they're sandwiched between these winding song structures that most rappers and or producers would never even consider. The very first words we hear on this LP are "she's calling," which I've heard a number of theories about, but I always kind of assumed that the quote-unquote "she" they're referencing is a muse of some sort, which in my eyes is kind of backed up by the first set of lines Dose One gives us after those opening words. He continues down this somewhat stream of consciousness path with "she's calling me tonight from just inside my lips and I'll write her. Betterment of the world through wish I'd fall off, growing distant, I'll write her, and pull my face fresh from the waxy palms it's kept soft in." Then Yoni takes the reins to give some more dense, imagery-filled poetry, using his eclectic mix of singing and rapping to give us lines like, "There's something to the fading of fate. My whole childhood was the broken guitar and my sister's silly yellow blanket. Now I carry slender and sexy curved sledgehammers to break the bricks I bought. I should have never went to college, but took a trip to Costa Rica to cut rainforests and choke myself." While all the production here is handled by Odd Nosdam, we do get a number of Anticon affiliates on the guest appearance side of things, including Soul, Illogic, DJ Signify, the Wolf Bros, Mr. Dibs, and the Bay Area Animals. This tracklist doesn't play like most, or really any of the albums I've covered so far, but I still want to name some honorable mentions before my main three favorite tracks, which for this LP would include Apartment A2, and All You Can Do Is Laugh 2, I Promise to Never Get Paint on My Glasses Again 1, Jimmy Breeze 2, CLOUDDEAD number 5 1, and Bike 2. But when it comes down to the overall top 3, I ultimately boiled it down to Apartment A1, and All You Can Do Is Laugh 1, and Jimmy Breeze 1. Thank you for watching my 205th video. Next up, we're returning to one of the all-time greats, so look for that upload, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite moments of this innovative and forward-thinking debut are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.
Look, the key to my soul is locked in the cage it opens. The framework was made from my own rib. Q, what came first, the crack or the crack lighter? Whichever one the first fiend used to bring back